My memories of 9/11 were something like the worst disaster movie I had ever seen in my entire life. I live in Washington, D.C., so that morning I was taking my daughter to school. So I took her to school, and she had to be at school around 8 o'clock. So I took her at 8, and her school was not that far from my house. So as you know, I walked to the school, and then I walked back home. When I came back home, it was about, I don't know, it was about 8:30. So I think I made me some breakfast, and then by the time I had settled in, because I didn't have to work that day, I had turned on the morning news. And when I turned on the news, it tells me yes. It tells me that what I saw was it was like out of a movie, and I know now what it's like to think you're going to watched it, and then I tell him I got the first plane and I filmed. I mean, my eyes were peeled. My eyes were stuck to the screen, and I couldn't look away. So I listened, and as I watched, by the time I started watching, the first plane had already hit. The first plane had already hit the World Trade Center. I think the South Tower, the North Tower. The North Tower was hit first, I think. And so I just continued to watch. And as I watched this, you know, all I could do was sit there with my hand covering my mouth, you know, in such disbelief. And I continued to watch. And as I was watching, and I sat there and I watched, and I saw, and out the corner of my eye while watching the screen, I saw a little what appeared to be a speck on the screen. And then I saw the second plane hit, like right then and there on television, like live. And I was just, and I said, oh my gosh, this is not an accident. This is deliberate. Someone, you know, we are really under attack. Something is going on really major. And no sooner than I had that thought, I heard, you know, from my apartment, I heard this loud crash. And, okay, you know, like I said, I live in Washington, D.C., and where my apartment was located was not too far. It was across the water from Virginia. It was not too far, you know, from Virginia. So over the water, if I looked out my window, like in the wintertime, through the trees, you could see the water. And on the other side of that water was Virginia, and I heard this large crash, this large boom. It sounded like thunder, and then as I heard that, and not knowing what it was, I then continued to watch the news, and then they had mentioned that the Pentagon was hit. And so it dawned on me that the Pentagon, oh my, Virginia, that, and I just put two and two together and realized that crash, that boom that I heard was at the same time, that plane hundreds of firefighters hitting the Pentagon. People had to have died in those towers. And every hour that passed, it just I didn't know what to think. I felt so bad for people. I felt so scared because my child, I had just dropped my child off at school. So I didn't know if people were going to, they were going to start attacking the schools in D.C. and things, and then it just was really, really difficult for me at that time. It's still difficult for me today to think about watching those buildings fall in New York and watching the attacks on the Pentagon, and then hearing about a fourth plane in Pennsylvania. It was scary to me.
9 hours after everything started.
There's a school that's not too far from where I was living. It's called Lucky Elementary School, and there was a teacher and a student from that elementary school that was on one of those planes, and they were on the plane that hit the Pentagon, and it was really sad to me because it just was not that far from my house, and it's just today, every day, every year that goes by, I reflect on it, I think about it,
and the retired chief.
And
they were right there when Tower 1 came down.
My condolences really go out to the families, and my condolences go out to everybody in this world, everybody in this country that was affected by this tragedy, this tragic event. And my thanks go out to all of the heroes, all of the rescue workers, the firemen, the people who worked in the hospitals, our military. My thanks do go out to you guys as well. So many people, I know so many people would like to forget about what happened. And
all we knew is that nothing would ever be the same.
A lot of people would like to forget what happened, but I think as Americans that it is our duty to continue to remember. To continue to remember the lives that were lost, and remember exactly what happened directly, right immediately after that attack. If you remember, there were flags almost on every doorstep. You could see it, like in almost every neighborhood of the United States. There were flags on people's porches. There were flags flown on every window, flag post. There was a flag everywhere. I mean, it just looked so, our country looked so patriotic. And as time went by, that stopped, because people stopped reflecting. People stopped remembering. And I just think that we should really just continue to remember, continue to be strong for those who have family members that are going to continue to go through this. Because even though I was not directly affected, no one actually that I know personally died in the attacks. It still affects me, and it affects all of us, even if you don't think so. So, on this 10th year anniversary, I just want to say,
around midnight,
God bless all of
those
those that were affected, and God rest the souls.
There's going to be a lot of pain to deal with in the future.